digital arena, on the app, on your smartphone, on X, YouTube, and Facebook. The Sportscast. Expect the unexpected.
The Donut Bag presented by The Sportscast.
The Donut Bag, hosted by Joey Toscano. And here's your host, Joey Toscano.
We got an intro, baby.
That was a pretty good intro.
We are professional. Dang.
Yes,
Wow.
love the new intro to the show.
We're moving up in the world. Now all we need is sponsors. If I ever get stamps.com, then I know we've made it as a podcast.
Yes,
Oh,
for sure. Welcome all sponsors.
Welcome. Yes, please sponsor us. We were gonna do a Super Bowl commercial, but we were just $8 million short.
Right, $34 million.
So close, just missed it by that much.
Yes.
Welcome to the Donut Bag Podcast, part of the Sportscast Network. Welcome to everybody joining live. I already see people joining live. I love that. If you want to join in on the conversation, I think the only way to do that is on YouTube. I think it's youtube.com/@JoeyBagOfDonuts with a V and 7F. And we could see your comments and bring them into the show and stuff. So Super Bowl, I am beating myself up because I should have seen this coming. We saw, all year that the Chiefs just barely got by every game, except when they play the Steelers. And
right.
And I thought, okay, it's going to be the same thing. It's going to be a close game. The refs are probably going to help the Chiefs. The Chiefs are going to barely going to win. Probably maybe it'll go to overtime, some crap like that. But something told me that it's going to be an absolute beatdown because the Eagles are just so superior in talent at almost every single position. How did you think the Super Bowl was going to go?
I had a 34-10 Eagles, but I was so not confident about that. Even last week we talked about until someone beats the Chiefs, how can you pick against them? Exactly. But the way the week kind of progressed, you just kind of got a feeling like, I think this time I'm pretty confident they're going to win. And I went back and thought about that too. And I keep going back to they barely pulled out one against the Carolina Panthers. That was their whole thing this year. I mean, they were winning at the last second or right before overtime or going to overtime. And, still a good team, no knock on the Chiefs at all. But the Eagles had been getting better and better. And one thing you kept hearing after teams would play the Eagles is, man, they hit so hard, and they brought that same energy, that same toughness to that game. And they got up on Kansas City real early, and Kansas City had no answer. They had no answer for the Eagles defense. They outplayed them at the scrimmage, defensive line, offensive line. The Eagles even lost a key guard early in midway through the first quarter. And they still, did a pretty good job protecting Hurts, letting him have time to pass and everything else. So, we talk about, what the Steelers have tried to do through the draft, which, you can't blame them for trying what they've done. It's not the right or it's not the wrong thing. But the Eagles have really hit home on a lot of defensive linemen, a lot of offensive linemen, and it really showed because by the time you got to the end of that first half, Kansas City looked gassed. Their linemen were gassed.
It kind of looked like what the Ravens did to the Steelers in the playoff game. And people are like, well, the Chiefs just gave up. They just gave up at the end. Like, that's because that's the mental aspect. The Eagles from the first minute just punched him in the mouth and said, yeah, let's go. You want to fight? Let's go. And the Chiefs are like shocked. I think the Chiefs were expecting, hey, we're the Chiefs. We're the champs. We got, look at who we are. We're just going to show up and, you're going to give us respect. And the Eagles are like, no, we're not having any of that. We're just going to punch you in the mouth and keep on going.
Yeah, that toughness just kept on coming. That was what they'd done all year. And, they took it to us. They took it to a lot of teams. Even the game they lost to the Washington, that game was 36-33. And it was a hard-fought game. And then they beat Washington, earlier, and they lost to Washington. And even that was a hard fought game. You could go down the line and really look like the Eagles pretty much handled their opponents for most of the games that they played in, with the exception of a few. And that's just something where the Chiefs just weren't there. They were always in some battle, whether it was the Carolina Panthers or, whether it was the Buffalo Bills. They were always in a battle, except, of course, when they played the Steelers. And I think maybe we should have saw it coming. I'm not sure how many of us picked the Eagles last Monday, but still, the other thing, too, is it kind of reminded me of that Steelers-Seahawks Super Bowl where, you're sitting there like, God, we haven't won a Super Bowl since, 79, and I don't know. But you just kind of kept thinking, I think they're really ready. And now they didn't have a good of a game. Ben had a notoriously horrible Super Bowl that year. But I really feel if they would have been a team they were in like 2008, I think they would have beat Seattle probably 40-9.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, you could see it coming, and that's I think when it got to Friday, I'm like, I don't want to jinx it, but I really think the Eagles are going to pace them pretty good. They did.
It was a shock that the Eagles defense just ran over. I mean, they didn't even blitz, and they just destroyed that Kansas City offensive line. But then for the Kansas City defense to do nothing against the Eagles offense, that was shocking. The Chiefs defense was their strength. This who's the defensive coordinator of the Chiefs? Schwartz?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Spagnuolo.
Spagnuolo.
He's supposed to be this defensive genius, and but they basically said we are not going to let Saquon Barkley stop us.
Right.
And that's true. They stopped Saquon Barkley. It's like, if you're going to win Jalen Hurts, you're going to have to win this game. And Jalen Hurts was like, good. All right, I'll do that.
Yeah, no,
he did it through passing and running, and Jalen Hurts was awesome.
He did, and one of our commenters there, Kevin, put imposition of will on YouTube there. Yeah, you're right, Kevin, and that's what it was. And if you notice, what some of the blocking schemes were, instead of going to like a mid block or what they call a 3-4 block, they started spreading it out a little bit more, and they were actually putting blocks out there to let Hurts run. And it was really, really kind of fascinating. The Eagles really started out coaching the Chiefs, which you don't see very often with an Andy Reid coach team. But I think they really got out coached, and like you said, it was pedal to the metal. They didn't lead off the gas at all. It wasn't like, well, we got up 10-0 and we'll settle for that. They just kept calming and putting in good offensive plays to get them down the field. And yeah, the Chiefs defense was stymied and could not do anything right last night.
I went in for the past couple of weeks like dreading this matchup. Like, I really don't like either team. I'm sick of the Chiefs and the Eagles. I mean, I don't like anything from Philadelphia, not even a cheesesteak. But and then I don't know. There's something that just triggered me, and it's like I really hate the Chiefs. I'm just sick of them. I'm sick of the whole thing. They're arrogant and I'm just sick of them. And I wasn't rooting for the Eagles to win. I was rooting for the Chiefs to lose. And people are saying the game was like, the game is boring. I was like, I was loving every minute of the Chiefs getting their butts kicked.
Me too. I enjoyed it. I mean, and I put that on Twitter earlier. Like, I'm normally not. I gave the game because I did the annual report card. I think I gave the game a B+, which I normally wouldn't give to a team that wins by 18. But in this instance, it was a hell of a lot of fun. I liked a lot about it. And my counterpart for work, what I do. I cover this half of the state in West Virginia. He covers Philly. He's a diehard Philly, so he got to go to the Super Bowl yesterday.
Wow.
He's texting me while he's there, and he goes, "This is a home crowd." The Eagles fans are like 4-1 over the Chiefs. And I'm sitting there watching my wife, and they started to show Taylor Swift on the big screen. I'm like, this isn't going to go well. And then they just booed her.
Boo the heck out of her, yeah.
And all social media kind of had weird reaction. I'm like, this isn't a Taylor Swift thing as much as it's a Philly thing. Like, if they would have been playing like the Lions or the Packers or I don't know, whoever else, they wouldn't have reacted that way. They probably would have cared. Taylor Swift, it's the Eagles. You are getting booed.
I mean, she's from that area.
Yeah.
She grew up an Eagles fan.
Yeah. She grew up an Eagles fan.
She turned her back on them.
Oh yeah, she probably crossed Philadelphia off her tour list for whatever next.
They when they did the introductions of the teams, it was like they first introduced the Chiefs and there was like booing like crazy. I'm like, oh, this is a big Philly team. Now, can you imagine being a Chiefs fan and this is your third Super Bowl in a row.
Yeah.
Either you're tired of going, you don't have the money to go, or maybe they thought, maybe I don't know I don't know if I want to be there when if the Eagles are going to beat our butts. I don't know, but I think even the Chiefs might have been sick of being there all the time. So, and the Eagles, I mean, they're they're not too long ago, but hey, this is still a big deal for them.
Well, you said there's nothing you like from Philly, and given that, there's some things I like from Philly, but
Rocky.
I'll give Philly a couple of things. One, they always travel well, right? So like if the Phillies are playing, the Pirates are always here. It's Flyers and Penguins are always a really good crowd, and we hate each other, but it's always a good crowd. And the Eagles fans too, and so they're going to travel. They go to the Super Bowl. The Philadelphia crowd is going to be intense. So I'm not sure if maybe you're right. I think it was probably a little bit of complacency. Hey, we've been in the last couple. We won 2 in a row. We're going to sit this one out. We spent money on the last 2, whatever it may have been. And boy, they were outnumbered. That was an Eagle crowd all the way through. There was a lot of green in the audience. You could see it. It was great. And a bit of a home field advantage. And some of the players mentioned that after, like, it felt like a home game a little bit and whatnot. So, yeah. It was good. I still think bring back the Kelly Green jerseys, but we'll go to another.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I do like the Kelly Green. I don't like orange or black, but I like the Kelly Green.
That's what I mean. Just do that all the time. They did that a few times this year.
Mm-hmm.
Just make them the permanent color.
But the Eagles, to me, the other thing too is, in a way, Joe, it's kind of hard to hate them because I'm sitting there looking at them saying that's the team of all the teams in the NFL right now. Detroit, the 49ers, the Chiefs, the teams that have recent success. The Ravens, that's the team I'd like to see the Steelers become. What Jeff Lurie has done since he took over in 2000, or the last 24 years, 4 Super Bowl appearances, 2 wins, almost always in the playoffs, very competitive. But you're not afraid to have a losing season. Not that they go out to do that. But when they have a losing season, they know what to do with it. We talked a lot about that last week, and it prevailed yesterday. They filled that team with players they needed. They did well in free agency, spent wisely. And here they are with another Super Bowl trophy. And to me, it's almost like I'm not mad at them for it, but man, that's where I wish the Steelers would be in these next coming years if they can ever get back there.
It's what the Steelers are trying to be. You spend your first round draft pick a couple years ago on a tackle. First round draft pick last year on a tackle. You do another couple draft picks on offensive line. So they're trying to be okay. They think they have their line. It's not there yet, but they're hoping it'll get there. Now you got to work on that defensive line, and they need to work on it badly. And and I think now everybody is going to want to be the Eagles and emphasize the defensive line. And good luck with that. But that's an area the Steelers desperately need, because I think it's been a weakness the past few years. And when you have a good dominating defensive line, it covers up all the weaknesses you have in the secondary and everything else you have in the defense, because it doesn't matter. Your defensive line is just making everything wreak havoc on the other offense.
Well, and think about that with this is a Steelers podcast, folks. Sorry, but 4 Super Bowls in 6 years, so still we're the only team to do that. So sorry, Kansas City. And a big part of that was that forefront line, right? LC. Ernie Holmes, Dwight White, and of course, Mean Joe Green. Then the linebackers come in and everybody else gets better. Mel Blount, obviously, blah, blah, blah down the road. But it started with that. And we go back to those early 2000 teams. We had a really solid defensive line. Chemo, we had Brett, we had all these great guys.
Casey Hampton, Aaron Smith.
Big Snack, Aaron Smith, who will never get in the Hall of Fame, but I still argue the fact he probably should, because he played end on a 3-4 and he played it phenomenal.
Yeah, they weren't superstars, but they just ate up that offensive line, and they let the linebackers do all the work. And the linebackers had an easy time because the defensive line just swallowed up that offensive line.
Right. Jack Ham talks about that a lot. Jack Ham will reference that quite a bit. And, he'll mention a lot of my successes because of their success. Jack's about as humble as any Steeler could be. And, but you're right. It worked with Jack Ham and Jack Lambert, or even want to go Robin Cole. And then it worked, well with Joey Porter and Foote and the likes, So, yeah, and that's the key. I would not be opposed at all that the Steelers went defensive tackle in the first round this year.
This is supposed to be a very good draft for a defensive line, so that's good.
Yes, it is.
And it's just funny. All the Pittsburgh talk shows today are like, the Steelers are billions of light years away from the Eagles and stuff. It's like, wait a minute, let's go back here. The Eagles had one of the greatest off seasons of any team in recent memory. The last off season, in the draft, they got Cooper DeJean and who's that other cornerback Quinion Mitchell or something, whatever his name is. Too awesome that they contributed right away. They got that Bond as a free agent. And then, by the way, Saquon Barkley. They were a few pieces away, and they happened to get every single piece that was perfect for what they did. The Steelers can do something similar. They are a defensive line and wide receivers and a quarterback away. It's not crazy to say that you could hit home runs on those things.
No, it's not. I mean, and they got to go out and get some of these players too. They got to do good free agency. They got to do draft. It's why Myles Garrett's probably going to be a pretty hot commodity. I mean, he is a defensive lineman. He is 30. But some of these teams are trying to get over the hump, like the Cowboys or the Niners or somebody. They're going to throw money at Myles Garrett. They're seeing what the Chiefs are doing, and the Eagles. I mean, the Chiefs' defensive line was a big strength of that team all year long. And that might be a thing you could say, Joe, is that defensive line fought so hard to keep them in all those games that maybe they were just gassed by the time they got to the Super Bowl. And that, you could say that for sure. Chris Jones, obviously, he was having a rough time yesterday. It was kind of watching. I had Westwood One on. I was in the kitchen listening to Westwood One, and they were talking about how he's sitting there with an oxygen mask. I mean, he sat out like 2 series because he's sitting there with an oxygen mask. He was either, I don't know, prior hurt, or he was just, whatever. But again, no, all that aside, the Chiefs' defensive line is probably, again, one of the other better aspects of the Chiefs, and they got to the AFC, or they get to the Super Bowl because of it.
I don't feel bad for the Chiefs, but they might be at I don't want to say the crossroads, but they might be in an interesting situation. Their main 3 players are Mahomes, Kelsey, and Chris Jones. Chris Jones is, I think, 30 or 31. Mahomes is approaching 30, and Kelsey is 1 foot in the grave, let alone, I mean, I don't know if he's going to be, I don't know if he could walk anymore, because that was pathetic.
Yeah, probably one of the bigger stories this offseason is if he's going to come back, or if that was his last game as a Chief.
Yeah. So, I mean, they have the Chiefs, we said all year, it's like, how are they doing this? But they got to do something. Their wide receivers basically sucked. They had no running back. Like, you got, and their offensive line, basically collapsed, and which let the Eagles run all over them. They got some issues.
They do, and it was actually those issues that they addressed back when they lost to the Brady and the Bucks. That offensive line was horrible that year for the Chiefs. So what they do, they went out and started drafting guys. They built that offensive lineup, and well, you know what, worked out pretty well for them, given a couple Super Bowl wins there. Not to mention a back-to-back Super Bowl win. So, yeah, and that's just the way you got to do it. And like I said, that's why with the Steelers, I get what they're trying to do. Either they just haven't done it right yet. I'm not ready to concede that both of those guys are busts. But that's why it's a big year for him, Joe. And you called it right last week. There could be it still should be the strength of this team going in next year. It's a young offensive line that should be good. We need to get some depth behind them, maybe get that through free agency. But I still feel like if they're going to make a change, it's evident to me the offensive line coach is not good. That needs to change. These guys need to be developed better, something of that nature, because it's not worked out last couple of years.
I mean, there's a lot of talk of Rooney's too cheap, but my goodness, if you have a terrible coach on your staff, and the only reason you're keeping him around is like, well, I don't want to pay somebody else. I don't want to pay 2 people to do the same job. Then like, what the heck are we doing here? You got to develop these people, and this is one of the most important parts of the team, and one of the most important coaches is the offensive line coach, and he is not getting it done. He hasn't been getting it done for a long damn time, and he's still there.
Well, in the Pittsburgh media, for the most part, I think they're kind of they placate a little bit to the Steelers. I think when they bring in somebody, they tend to not to be as critical. They, open mind, whatever. And that's probably the way it should be. Have an open mind. Okay, they're bringing this kid in. They're bringing whoever it is in. Pat Meyer was probably one of the few guys I can remember universally, like Caballi and all of them be like, what? Like, why this guy? Especially with the line and the coach, right? This is a guy they got to interview a lot, talk to. They don't want to, get a bad rep or bad reputation off the bat, so they're not going to be very critical. But Pat Meyer was one where everybody was like, huh? What? Who?
Yeah.
He came from the Carolina Panthers, and that line was, I think, if I remember right, I'm not sure who it was. Maybe Caballi, could have been Jerry Dulac or somebody saying, like, I think the Carolina Panthers offensive line that year was like 19th or 18th. The prior year before that was like 26th. So they're like, oh, well, he brought the line up to 18th. Oh, okay. Whoa. And maybe if it was 8th, and it just has not been good with Pat Meyer. I'm sorry. But to me, Pat Meyer's a big problem on this team. I'd love to see him go, and nothing against you, Pat Meyer, but I'd love to see him go and have somebody else come in.
Yeah, it's just ridiculous. We'll see. I mean, what if you screw up? What if because of poor coaching, you just screw up two first-round draft picks?
Well, that's a great point.
Wasting them.
Yeah.
You're just wasting them. It's ridiculous.
That's a fantastic point because, like you said, I mean, they bring in these guys. Well, guess what? You can bring in all the guys you want, unless they are, what they call a natural, right? Because I think you could have taken Bruce Smith, right, and put him anywhere, right? Cam Hayward, probably the same thing. But some of these other guys, you need to bring in a guy that's going to develop them. So it goes hand in hand. He didn't have a great start. You're bringing all these guys in. And how do you not look at your offensive line and say, okay, we invested 2 back-to-back first-round draft picks. Neither of them are panning out. One of them is holding something fierce. They're far from being where they need to be. We need to make some changes. I just don't understand how you can't do that. There's just, to me, and I don't know what you get out of keeping them this year. I really don't.
Yeah.
But that to me is one of the A-list problems for the Steelers. It's Pat Meyer's one of those A-list guys. That needs to change, where they're not going to be where they need to be.
Yeah. The other thing that's been going around for about the past week is Jalen Hurts was taken in the second round with the 53rd pick in the 2020 draft.
Mm-hmm.
Right before, about 4 spots before that, the Steelers had the pick in the second round, and they took Chase Claypool. What would have happened if the Steelers took Jalen Hurts? Let me tell you.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, this is the Steelers that took Mason Rudolph in the 2018 draft?
2018 draft in the second round, and thinking, oh my God, third round.
And he's this first round. So you'd be weird if you already spent that draft capital on a quarterback and then like a year or two later to spend it again. That would be weird. But when they drafted Mason Rudolph, Ben threw the biggest hissy fit.
He did.
Like, dude, at that point, he was the quarterback. He was 15 years into his career, and he's mad that they would think about replacing him at the end of his career. And then, like, did they really want to deal with that again? My goodness.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing. Like, I'm not sure where they get that, because Ben I love Ben for a lot of things, and he had a few faults. One of those faults was his little attitude, prima donna attitude around stuff like that. I mean, you got to expect the franchise to do that, but it goes both ways, Joe. Who in the Steelers lets Ben walk all over them? Like, it's hey, this is the way the NFL is, man. And unless you have, he's generational talent, okay, but you got to find the replacement. And like Ben, we're not going to start him tomorrow. But these quarterbacks, they get, I don't know. He was afraid of him.
Yeah, it's like, hey Ben, you're not gonna be here forever. When you're 60 years old, you're not going to be the quarterback. Like what? Like, yeah, we're preparing for your thing. Now, look at the Eagles. They were crazy for drafting Jalen Hurts then because they just signed Carson Wentz to a $100-some million contract.
Yeah.
And clearly he was the guy. And they still said, well, best player available. Let's just take this guy.
Available. And
look what happened.
Yeah. Yeah, and I don't get that. I mean, Chase Claypool, he was just that's been awful. One of the worst draft
But at
picks.
the time, we thought that was a good pick because at the time
We did.
we thought, oh, this Mapletron is this big tough guy, yay!
Yeah, and it just I mean, it's just been a lot of misses, with him, Kenny Pickett. I mean, you can just go right down the line.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Speaking of Kenny
Super Bowl champion Kenny Pickett.
Yeah,
I saw a stat that said Patrick Mahomes is 0-1 against Kenny Pickett.
God. I mean, you talk about only in this city is he some kind of legend.
There was apparently listen, I am the biggest University of Pittsburgh fan. I'm one of the few that actually go to the games. But right now I hate Kenny Pickett's guts. I cannot forgive him for what he did, for the shenanigans he pulled, and how he was an entitled brat with the Steelers, who was terrible. And then they said, "Hey, we're thinking about bringing another quarterback." It's like, "No, I'm the starter. You just have to trade me." Like, really, dude? Who do you think you are? That is just some entitled crap.
Yeah, I mean, if you want to give Ben a little bit of room for being entitled, well, he did win a couple Super Bowls.
He earned it.
He earned it. Kenny Pickett, you haven't earned it. And I mean, he didn't. I think he really just, you're going to be third string. He just refused to do it, and so he got traded. But the thing is, and I'm a Penn State guy, but Kenny Pickett he's a career backup. That's all he's ever really going to be. I think, and think about this, Joe. What if Kenny Pickett wouldn't have done that? What if Kenny Pickett would have stayed in Pittsburgh? Because right now he'd be sitting really pretty.
Well, okay. So if let's play this scenario. Let's say he said, "Okay, fine.
Mm-hmm.
You want to bring in Russell Wilson? Fine. I'll compete with him or I'll work with him or whatever." What would have happened was they never would have got Justin Fields, and Russell Wilson would have still got hurt, and Kenny Pickett would have started those first 6 games. How he would have done? Probably pretty bad, but still, he would have had a chance to actually play again. What did he do in Philadelphia? He played part of one game where he looked like a buffoon.
He looked horrible.
Here's a funny thing. He wasn't the second string guy in Philadelphia. He was the third string guy. That Tanner dude, he was actually better than Kenny Pickett.
Yeah. And that's who Kenny Pickett is. And I guess I get it, and like, you said, I get it. He's a Pitt guy, local, Pitt guy. So you have that, but he's a Philadelphia guy. Actually, he's a Jersey kid.
Yeah.
But you want to see him do good. I mean, I'm not any different, man. I want to see Penn State guys. I've been, proud as crap watching Saquon Barkley do what he's done this year. But, sometimes you just got to realize they are what they are. I mean, sure, there's other guys. I really, really think we made a huge mistake in not keeping James Conner. James Conner should have been a Steeler, and I think they would have been in a much better place having James Conner as a running back over the last couple of years than either Najee or anybody else. So I don't think
if they kept Conner, they could have used that first round pick on somebody else.
Yeah.
So they definitely should have kept Conner. It was I think his name is at Pickensburg on Twitter, and he had a picture of Kenny Pickett. He said he's living proof that if you are in a group project and you get an A but you do nothing, that's Kenny Pickett.
That's right. Yeah. 0 for 3 and -4 or whatever he was, and and you knew it as soon as he did that. There's all these people. Oh, he's a Super Bowl champion, and he's also the water boy, and
right.
I don't know what the infatuation is with Kenny Pickett.
I about died. You almost killed me when with that one tweet. It's like he's a water boy. Yeah. When I saw that today, like
and that's what's going to happen. I mean, he has one more year in Philadelphia on his contract. And then I heard somebody say, "Hey, and after that year, he'll be, free agent. He could go somewhere else." And as what? As a backup? He's not going anywhere as a starter. And I said that last week. Find me a team right now that would take him as a starter.
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Not one.
Speaking of find a team that would take him as a starter, we've had our own situation with Steelers quarterbacks.
We could use a starter.
There's conflicting reports out there. Some of them say Russell Wilson's not coming back. Some of them say he is coming back. Some of them say there's interest in other teams have interest in Justin Fields. And what are we going to do? I mean, this is going to dominate for the next 2 or 3 months. What are we going to do about the quarterbacks? What do you think is going to happen?
You and I are sitting here saying it. So I'm sure they're sitting in some conference room over at Heinz Field saying, hey, what are we going to do? Because that's the spot that they're unfortunately in. They painted themselves into a corner. They have made no commitment either way at this point. And I know it's, only, February, but it's starting to get time here where they're going to have to figure out, who they're behind, who's going to go, who's coming in, and what they're going to do. Because, they could, they could be without both of them. Yeah. And then they got to sit there and go, really, what are we going to do?
What?
Yeah. Because they can't afford to go deep into camp with, a questioned quarterback or like 2 new quarterbacks, and not to mention they can't go into camp without a second receiver. So, I mean, I don't know, Joe. The quarterback class is iffy. It's not great. It's okay. Wide receiver class is a little better. I'm thinking right now they may go defensive line or wide receiver at the first pick. That's early preliminary thoughts, just looking at stuff. But the quarterback thing is just, I don't know. And that's what I've heard. It seems like the popular opinion is Russell Wilson isn't coming back, or the Steelers don't want him back. And then to me, I think your best bet is to immediately try to give some money and sign Fields. You got to keep one of them. I think if you don't keep both of them, that didn't work out too well with the receiver group core last year.
Yeah.
I think you got to keep one.
They've really painted themselves in the corner, because let's say they decide, and I think this would be the logical thing, is if they said, Russ, thank you for your year. We've decided to go with Justin Fields. And they say this almost feels like that show The Bachelor. It's like where the guy has to pick between 2 women and which one he's going to marry. And if he says, they say that will you take this rose? And they say Justin Fields, good news, we decided to make you suffer. We're offering you a contract. And Justin Fields says, good news, a whole bunch of other teams want me too, so I'm going to test free agency.
Right.
They could lose them. And then some idiot team like that out there, like the Giants or whoever, could say, let's do Justin Fields. And then the Steelers will be left with nothing. They would be left with either Russell Wilson or, God, please not Aaron Rodgers. Or even Matthew Stafford. Oh God,
that's been a good debate lately. I mean, and the question is, and it's a legit question: would you rather have one of these two, or would you rather have Aaron Rodgers? And the thing is this: if you're saying whose talent would I rather have, I'd probably rather have Aaron Rodgers' talent. However, he's not young. But do you want to take the cancer he brings to a locker room, because he's just a jerk. And this team doesn't need a jerk captain quarterback out there. That's the last thing they need. It really is. And so, but the biggest part of it, Joe, is what I think they'll do is I think they're going to have to sign one of them, because I'm hoping that they learned a lesson from last year where Plan B didn't work out in the receiving core. And they're like, okay, look, by March, whatever, at least a couple weeks before the draft, we have to have one of these guys signed, and this is our QB. Because if you're going to go fishing for a wide receiver free agent, or you want to bring a wide receiver here, you better have somebody that's signed quarterback, proven starter in the NFL, which both of them are. Okay, Russell Wilson more success, obviously, than Justin Fields, but they've got to do that, and I think that's what they'll do. But they're gonna have to make up their mind quick.
Could you imagine if they're trying to get free agent wide receivers and say, "Hey, we'd like you to come to the Steelers"? Like, so who's going to be throwing to me? Skylar Thompson. I mean,
they will bring Mitch Trubisky back. Yeah,
right.
I mean, that's what I mean, Joe. I mean, they cannot be in a position like, well, we don't have a quarterback. We don't know. I mean, at least you need to say, okay, we know we're going to have Justin Fields, or we know we're going to have Russell Wilson. We know we will have this guy in a role next year. Because other than that, I don't see any free agents. The rumor kept going around like T. Higgins. Like, look, all right, I guess if the Steelers go out and throw $33 million at him, he's probably not going to say no. But, I mean, if he put this situation out there, if they come to him and say, hey, we're going to give you $33 million, or if the Bills come to him and say, I'm not going to give you 33, we'll give you 24. Who do you think he's going to go to? Because I can tell you right now, it's not going to be the Steelers.
Right.
He'll take less money to go somewhere where he's not going to come here and be a project, because that's what right now that's what the Steelers are unfortunately in, folks. They're a project until they get this stuff fixed or figured out. They are in a rebuilding reclamation project is what they are.
They're
especially on offense. Maybe not the line, hopefully, but receivers and we haven't even hit on running backs because I'm pretty damn sure Najee Harris isn't coming back. The wide receiving core is in really kind of shambles right now. Our leading wide receiver is such a head case, and I don't know what to expect from him this year, Joe. It scares the hell out of me. Is he going to say, okay, time to shut up, put up my numbers, I'm going to be gone, but I'm going to have a great season so I can get good money next year? Or is he just going to be, getting to week 5 and be like, yeah, screw it, I'll be a free agent, I'll make money somewhere else? And that scares the hell out of me, because if Chris Godwin's your number 2, okay, it's better than what we had. We didn't have, but he's also like 32. I don't know.
Yeah. And they're in this purgatory / hell of their most important position because they swung and missed on Kenny Pickett.
Yeah.
Kenny Pickett was supposed to be the guy, and that failed spectacularly. So now we're basically dumpster diving. And
pretty much.
I believe in Justin Fields, but what is his ceiling? What, can he be Jalen Hurts? I'd be happy if he was half Jalen Hurts.
I would be too. And I the more I think about it, the more I lean towards him. And it's scary to lean towards him because he, again, still the turnover issues were still there this year. I've said this a million times in your show, until he got replaced, he fumbled the ball 6 times.
Yeah, and we just happened to recover some
5. Yeah, we got pretty damn lucky. If he would have lost all those fumbles, or the majority of them, it would have not been good, right? But so he's got to fix that. There's a lot he can fix, but I do feel like he's just maybe the guy, because I'm scared about Russell Wilson. He came in off the bench, did great. Everyone's like Russell Wilson mania. His t-shirts are in Giant Eagle now. That's what's official. But he really trailed off in the back half of the season. He really trailed off against good teams, and he struggled against good defenses. And it just, what are we going to get? Another guy that's going to come out, watch Russell Wilson be one of the NFL's leading passers for the first month of the season, and then,
right.
And I think Justin Fields may do the opposite.
Yeah.
So that's what I think they'll do. But we'll see.
What drives me crazy about what happened with Justin Fields last year was they never really gave him a chance. They said basically from day one, as soon as that whole quarterback situation went down, they basically said, Russ, you're the starter. Pole position, as they put it. They never gave, even though all these stupid, national reporters said, "Oh, there's a competition," and Justin Fields was like, no, there was never a competition. It was always Russ from the minute. And then when Russ got hurt, when he hurt his calf, and it was
blocking sled. Here's what you're gonna do. You're a 2-time Super Bowl quarterback. We're gonna have you push a blocking sled because that makes sense.
Yeah. For that one time you do a double reverse or something like that, and you need your quarterback to block, glad we threw away the season for that.
6th grade.
Yeah. But when they did that, and when Russ got hurt, they said, okay, well, Justin Fields, you're going to have to be the starter. Every week, it was the Russell Wilson game plan that just happened to give to Justin Fields, because it was like week to week, whether Russell Wilson was going to play or not. Like, if you're going to do that, if you're going to hand the keys to Justin Fields, build the offense around him. Build the offense around his running ability. He is an awesome runner. Make him Lamar Jackson light. Make him Jalen Hurts was a runner, but make him like Jalen Hurts or something like that. Make him a primary runner that just happens to pass so much. That's fine. Just cater the offense to him, not make it a Russell Wilson offense that just happens to be run by somebody else.
And maybe that's why you do take, you bring in, you keep Fields, and you do bring in a guy like Chris Godwin, or you do bring in some free agent receivers that are, yeah. Well, and that's another one, which I'm sure we're going to get to here in a second. But I mean, it's just, because I don't know what it is, but I do feel like there was signs there that he could be good, which I never thought we saw with Kenny. I'm sorry, I just never thought. And you can say, "Oh, Matt Canada," which you have an argument about Matt Canada, but yeah, and I'm not so sure I'm still sold on Arthur Smith, but I guess I think it's going to be Fields, but we'll see. We'll see. And that's the thing with the Steelers right now. They're so damn unpredictable. And your faith has got to be a little rocked because plan B with the receiver core didn't work good.
Kevin says next NFL season is a massive race to the bottom to draft the next Manning.
He's not wrong.
That could be. That could be. What if it's a crazy idea? What if we have a losing season? Oh my God, it's not the end of the world, people.
No,
we can have a losing season.
How do you think we got Big Ben?
Thank you.
How do you think we got a guy like Plex? How do you think we got Troy? I mean, we had good picks because we sucked. I think we picked Troy. We were picking what, Joe, 14th or 15th, something in there. Ben, obviously top 10 pick. A couple of those guys, and I always still wish I would. Plex is kind of a funny guy. Kind of the same attitude problems, but he came up pretty big for the Patriots or for the Giants in the Super Bowls against the Patriots, and I would like to see Plex stay here. But Plex,
he played well for the Steelers too. It was a shame that we lost him in that contract, but he produced.
But yeah, he produced. He was. We picked 8th that year. We drafted him out of Michigan State. So yeah, go ahead, have a bad season. Now to Kevin's point, I don't know if we'll have that bad of a season because he's right. It's basically who's 1 or 2. I still say this. What's that?
Theoretically, Manning would probably go number 1 overall, and you got to really suck to be in that stratosphere. But maybe it'll be this is not a good quarterback class, but maybe next year will be.
It could be, and everything we never know. Arch Manning, it could be hurt. He might want to get 2 years in Texas instead of 1. He's incredibly loyal to the University of Texas. I think he would only leave there if he got money's there and stuff like that. Plus, they can pay him pretty well too. We saw Iowa give a wrestler out of Pennsylvania $5 million in NIL money, which is just wow.
Oh my God!
Yeah,
17 years old.
Yeah, number one ranked wrestler in the country, and he went to Iowa because Penn State's offer was like 2.5. They came back with 5, and there he goes. But no, you're right. So we'll see. Arch Manning should be there. But, Kevin, I'm not sure if he will. We'll have to see. It's a long way off to do it. But in hindsight, Kevin's not wrong. But, man, you're going to have to be you have 1 or 2 wins to kind of probably do that. And even though the Steelers have had their faults, I don't see him being that bad.
But still, if they go, let's say they draft top 10 or something like that, there should be some good quarterback out there available.
Yeah, there should be. And there's not, like I said, this year, I like Will Howard out of Ohio State. I just like his build. I think he's a project. He's a project. But if they could get Will Howard in the 4th round or something like that, I wouldn't mind seeing them grab a Will Howard. But I don't know. And you might see them. They might go for a quarterback in the 3rd or 4th round this year. Who knows?
There is that, what's his name? Slough or something like that? Or Dart or something like that.
Yeah, Dart out of Mississippi State, or not Mississippi State, but Ole Miss. We'll have to see. It's just the Steelers. We talked about this last week too, and prior weeks. Steelers have a lot of needs, folks. A lot. Receiver, running back, defensive line, defensive backfield. There's a lot there, and that's going to be the fun part of the show, as we did last year. And just for you guys tuning in, if you didn't tune in with us last year, we did a live draft show. We're probably going to do that again this year, hopefully. And that it's really up in the air what's going to follow the Steelers, what's going to be there, and what they're going to do, because it's the big grocery list, folks. It's not the little run out there real quick in the morning. It's the big one.
A lot of things have to happen for the Steelers to get good. A lot of them. As Chuck Noll said, our needs are great and they are many. I was just looking at a 2026 mock draft, and they do have Arch Manning going 1. They have this LSU quarterback Garrett Nussmeier going 4. Ironically, to the Browns. They have Drew
Aller.
The Browns
picking 4th.
Yeah. They have Drew Aller going 10th, and then they have another quarterback, Lenora Sellers of South Carolina going 16th. So it looks like it'll be a pretty strong quarterback draft in 2026. And oh, by the way, where is the 2026 draft?
In Pittsburgh.
I
already have my rooms ready.
There you go. There you go. So you know what? You want to make a splash? You want to get your big superstar quarterback of the future? Let's go, baby.
They're already talking about that 2026 QB class being similar to the one in which Ben was drafted in. When you had Eli, you had Ben, you had Phillip Rivers. If anybody remembers that, I mean, a lot of people had Steelers going with Phillip Rivers, and it's been actually quoted. And Bill Cowher really was big on Phillip.
Howard loved Phillip Rivers.
He wanted Phillip. Well, he's an NC State alum, so it was
right.
Bill Cowher. You know, I kind of thought that's the way they go. But I told you, I remember when they grabbed Big Ben because I'd seen Ben play twice in college, covered him once, and it was like, this kid's gonna be under the radar because he's playing at Miami of Ohio, but he's gonna be something special. And yeah, we'll see.
He wasn't supposed to start because they had Tommy Maddox, and Tommy Maddox was just fine. Tommy Maddox was a pretty good quarterback, and then but then Tommy Maddox got hurt in that second game, and then Ben was off to the races. He went like 15-1 that year or something like that.
And we started throwing trash on his lawn. Tommy Maddox hates Pittsburgh for that. Yeah,
you know, you can't blame him. We do not. Hey, ask Cliff Stout and Mark Malone what we did to them in the '80s. So we are not. Kenny Pickett. I hope you don't have any houses in the Pittsburgh area. Don't come visit for a while. We won't be too kind to you.
But we've been here before. I mean, I hate to say Joe and I's age, but we can remember the Kent Graham days when they decided they were going to start Kent Graham, who the prior year was in a quarterback battle game.
Jim Miller. Jim Miller, who's I'm thinking about. He lasted one game,
and
Power's like, I've seen enough.
Because he was this monster. He's a 6'8", Jim Miller was, and he had a cannon, but he couldn't hit anything 5 yards in front of him. He could throw a dime from 60 yards out, but Kent Graham was, also like 6'6", but he weighed like 200 pounds and had no mobility. And they went with Cordell. Cordell, I always said this, and if whoever has played back in the day, Cordell was a fantasy dream back in the day. I mean, if you imagine if Cordell Stewart played in the NFL right now, he would be incredible.
I don't know if it was just the league I was in or how the rules were at the time, but if a quarterback ran in for a touchdown, it counted as 2 touchdowns.
Oh yeah, he had like 10 1 year.
And so Cordell, because nobody did that. There were no running quarterbacks back then. It was like Cunningham, and that's it.
Yeah.
So Cordell Stewart was like a dream. He was like the number 1 overall pick. Yeah.
Yep. So, but unfortunately, and that's what happens. We've talked about this for years now. Like, hey, when Ben's over, Ben's gone.
Now what?
We remember what happened after, Terry Bradshaw left. There was a big lull. Yeah. And Cordell Stewart, quite arguably, probably was the best quarterback in the time between. I know O'Donnell had more passing yards and was maybe a better pure passer, but there was this thing in Super Bowl 30 we don't want to talk about too much, and that didn't work out well. But yeah, I mean, here we are. We are in post-bet mortem, and we're still in it.
They kept saying, imagine Cordell Stewart in his prime in this day and age. He would basically be Lamar Jackson at least because they would highlight his running, ability, not shy away from it. Dave has a great point. Do quarterback last. Yeah. Do quarterback last. Build your line, build your offensive line, build your defensive line, build the rest of the team. Then just happen to get your quarterback and running back. Make those the last pieces because you have everything in place.
Yeah, no, I'm okay with that. I think Dave makes a great point on that. You don't have to go and you're not going to – the chance of you landing the next Josh Allen or Joe Burrows is very hard and slim and none. You can go back through there. I mean, it's scary. If you go back over the last 10 years and the first round quarterbacks that were selected 1, 2, or 3, the most of them are not in the league anymore, or they're a third stringer somewhere. It's just, that's why this year there's a couple guys, but there's nobody that's like, I'm not sold on Sanders. It's just.
And even if you had a good quarterback, even if you drafted a good quarterback, if you don't have a good line and a good offense to go with that quarterback, he's going to be end up like Tim Couch with the Browns. Tim Couch was an okay quarterback, but he didn't stand a chance. Or not Derek Carr, David Carr, same thing with the expansion Houston. Like they got killed because they had nothing around them. They didn't have a chance to succeed.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and it's so hard. And I think that like Peyton Manning and Ryan Leaf, remember that? And it was like two can't miss products, or two can't miss prospects. One was a huge miss, and one was pretty good. One was really good, and that's
at the time, people are like, "Why are you getting this Peyton Manning guy? Ryan Leaf is the man." And look what happened.
Yeah, exactly. And that's just kind of where you're at with it. But no, I'm with David to a T. If there's some stud defensive lineman, some guy like that, that's who you need to go. That's why I was all about taking Cooper DeJean. Like Cooper DeJean. Seen him play so many times with Iowa. I mean, he's the guy we want. Looked pretty good yesterday.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Just looked pretty good all season.
I think that was his first NFL interception too.
I don't know if it was his first, but yeah, first pick 6, that's for sure.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
That was a great play too.
Yeah.
So with the wide receivers, there is talk that Deebo Samuel might be available in the trade. In addition to the free agents, we still don't know who is actually going to be available. We think Devontae Adams will be available. You mentioned Chris Godwin before. Do you think the Steelers should have interest in Deebo Samuel?
Yeah. I mean, here's why. Either any of those guys are improving what we have. We don't have anything.
Right.
We have a high case for number one wide receiver. Deebo Samuel is 29, so he's still someone in his prime. You bring him in, you should be able to get at least 2 to 3 solid good years out of him. Very athletic guy. He is a guy Arthur Smith should like, because he's a guy he can do end arounds. He can do a lot of things there.
I think he's a run blocker too.
He's a good run blocker. He's a very good run blocker, actually. So Deebo would make a lot of sense to bring here. That would be a guy I would like to see. The Western wide receivers, a lot of them are in their 30s, so it's like, But again, beggars can't be choosers. We're beggars, guys. Our wide receiving core sucks. I
think Omar Khan is going to have a massive overcorrection compared to last year. Like last year, we had no wide receivers. I think this year we're going to have too many wide receivers, and I'm perfectly fine with that. Keep Pickens and deal with his stupid head case, but bring in a Deebo or a Godwin or a Devontae Adams or somebody like that that's kind of older but still good for a year or two. Do that. Draft somebody. And have way too many wide receivers as opposed to not enough. I think Khan learned his lesson.
Yeah, they really can't go wrong at drafting just about any wide receiver. That's how bad it is. Would Chris Godwin be my first choice? No, but he's better than what we got. A lot better than what we got. So I would take him. I'd take Deebo Samuel in a heartbeat. He's probably the best guy out there. Again, a free agent wide receiver list isn't T. Higgins, obviously, and I just don't think we're getting T. Higgins. But yeah, that would be a guy I'd love to see. That would be a guy you could build on, to David's point, right? Bring him in, use Fields, keep building. The
nice thing about if they do choose Justin Fields is he won't be that expensive. In theory, he won't be that expensive. I've seen him go for like $10 million a year, $15 million a year, something like that. That's reasonable. And that's okay. If you want to Sam Darnold, you're going to be spending 40, 50, 60 million. That's a going rate for a star quarterback is like 40, 50 million right now, at least. Yep. So you know what? You're spending some money, but still you have enough. You could still save some money. You could spend it on other things like a good wide receiver.
And to your point too, I mean, what if you do say, hey, Justin, here's what we're going to do. Russell Wilson's gone. We're going to get rid of him. You're our starter. We're going to give you a 2-year contract, $24 million or something like that. I think he's going to be acceptable to that because, again, he's another guy I don't think a lot of teams would jump up and say, we're going to bring him in as our starter, right? We'll bring him in. We'll try him out, kind of like the Steelers did with him last year. We're going to bring you in. We're also going to bring in Russell Wilson. Now you're the backup. If they can commit to him and say, you're going to be our guy, come hell or high water, we're going to make this through with you. We may draft a quarterback, just so you know. We maybe bring another free agent quarterback, but you're our guy, 2 years, 24 mil. I think he stays, and I think that would affect him. Leanne mentioned that a couple of podcasts ago, Joe. She said she was worried about how this affected him mentally, and I got to say, I thought the kid handled it pretty well. Obviously, if you look at it, you want to do a comparison to all these comparisons. He handled that a hell of a lot better than Kenny Pickett did.
Thank you.
A hell of a lot better than Kenny Pickett. So for all you Kenny Pickett lovers, chew on that because he didn't handle it well at all.
Could you imagine the situation that Justin Fields was in? He got kicked out of Chicago, even though he was the man.
Yep.
And it's like, okay, we're drafting a quarterback. We're kicking you out. Okay, fine. He has nowhere to go. Steelers is like, okay, we'll take you in. By the way, you don't have a chance to be a starter because we got Russell Wilson. You're going to be the backup. Good luck with that. And he was okay with that. And then he got a chance to start, and he was a starter, and he went 4-2. And they said, okay, it's Russell Wilson's time. Not once did he complain. Not once did he say one bad thing. In fact, he said when they asked him about it, he said it's completely understandable. I did not play well enough to earn being the starter, so it's understandable, and I accept my position. Totally great attitude the whole way around for an absolutely horrible situation, but he handled it perfectly.
Yeah, he's done very well to this point, unless there's something we aren't hearing about. He's sitting there. He could easily right now be like, hey, I'm out of here. I want out of here. I'm on the block. He's been kind of staying around, even though, he could easily bitch if he wanted to, and he's not, and that's what I think is going to happen. I could be wrong. Omar Khan is kind of crazy. Stafford's out there, but then again, I don't want I know Matt Stafford's done fairly well, but he's 37. He'll turn 38 when he's here. Same again with Aaron Rodgers. I mean, those two guys are not much different than Russell Wilson. Now is Aaron Rodgers a better quarterback overall? Yes. Is he a Hall of Fame quarterback? Probably, yes. Russell Wilson probably is too, maybe. But yeah, I mean, no, I would rather go young and build off of that. I just don't see what bringing in a Aaron Rodgers or Matt Stafford does.
Aaron Rodgers, my goodness, that would just be a nightmare situation.
And him and Stafford are going to command top dollar.
Yeah. I could see Aaron Rodgers retiring. The rumor is Stafford's going to go to the Giants, and hey, good for you. From what I heard of Matthew Stafford's wife already saying, he should be traded or whatever. It's like, I don't need to deal with that. I don't need somebody on a podcast just spouting off like every week. That just sounds like a huge pain in the butt.
Obviously, in life, your spouse has a big impact on what you do. You lean on them for advice, or you have a discussion about careers and stuff like that. And that usually stays in the living room. And that's, it's never worked out well when a NFL wife gets on podcasts or Twitter or Instagram, whatever, and starts spouting off about how her husband's not being treated well and, should be traded or whatever. It's just, it's just one of those things. Somebody did that leading up to this. Didn't somebody say something? I don't know who it was. I thought somebody said something along that. It's slipping my mind who said it was, but you just don't want to. Oh, somebody was putting out racist tweets from 2002. It's Saquon Barkley's fiance or something. Yeah. And it's just like, you just, no, you're just. I'm not saying that you should shut up. I'm just saying, be like us.
Nothing good can come from this.
Right. But yeah, no. That would be my preference, because I just feel like if you bring in Stafford or Aaron Rodgers, all right, even leaving the baggage out with Aaron Rodgers, if you bring them back, you're basically back at square one. Justin Fields is not going to want to stay here then. Right. You're back to square one, and I just don't. I think if we're looking, and I think we need to look for a fresh start. Fresh start is Justin Fields, Russell. Thanks. See you later. And to David's point, start building the other stuff.
I'm still thinking about that report from last week where they said, well, Russell Wilson was audibling, and then they wouldn't let him audible anymore. Yeah. And that mean Arthur Smith wouldn't let him audible. And like, who does that? Who put that out there? Who is like, who does this benefit? It only benefits Russell Wilson to put him out to other teams and say, oh, look, I would have been better, but that mean offensive coordinator wouldn't let me play the way I want to play. Like, that's been Russell Wilson's thing it'll be on his 4th team now. Like, hey, bro, maybe the call is coming from inside the house. Maybe the problem is you.
Well, and if that was the case, I guarantee you Aaron Rodgers and Arthur Smith aren't going to get along.
Right.
So that's I mean, that's where I will bring in the Aaron Rodgers garbage is that won't get along well. Didn't get along well in the Jets front office. I mean, they were at odds. How many guys did Aaron Rodgers get fired on the Jets? Like, I mean, it's like a litany of guys that have been fired from the Jets because of Aaron Rodgers and everybody else. So,
oh my goodness,
that's not going to go well here in Pittsburgh. I just think that would be horrible.
The Jets let Aaron Rodgers basically take over the organization.
Yeah, you're the GM now.
Yeah, it's craziness.
Yeah. So
one more thing, since we are officially in the off season now, let's talk about some of the things that some of the dates of this off season. Starting this Friday in between February 14th and March 4th, that's when teams can put players on franchise tags.
Mm-hmm.
Usually that doesn't happen until like the end of that period. So more like the first week in March is when that whole thing happens.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when we'll find out, who's going to get the franchise tag. Yeah, we'll see. It could be, I think the Bengals will franchise tag T. Higgins.
They probably will. Yeah. And that's been a weird story too, because that was all bad. And then towards the end of the year, T. Higgins started to kind of keep quiet. And then I think it was maybe going into like that second to last game, maybe it was against us. No, it was a game before. He said, we'll see where stuff goes. He had totally backed off his like adamant that I'm getting the hell out of here. And now, so who knows? He might work something well with the Bengals, because it's evident. We talked about this too. It's evident that Joe Burrows is still probably the best pure passer in the NFL right now. I think he's the best quarterback. And T. Higgins is probably sitting there thinking, well, okay, unless I go to someone that's got an established quarterback, there's probably only 3 or 4 of those really, in the league right now that are elite guys that are going to get him the ball like Joe Burrows can. I think he may be second guessing it. Now, the other thing is he's going to get $30 or $40 million almost no matter where he goes. Yeah. So does the money talk? Does he, because the Bengals have got to show something too. The Bengals are, I think, in a better spot than the Steelers, but the Bengals have a lot to do to get that defense to be where it needs to be. They also could use a tight end would help, and a little bit of a better offensive line. But T. Higgins is probably the most interesting free agent out there to see what happens with him.
Bengals are at a crossroads. It's going to be very interesting. They could keep T. Higgins and Jamar Chase and basically have like scrubs for the rest of the team. But hey, at least you still have your 3 elite players.
Right.
Who knows?
Well, yeah, because that's the thing. Because I think Chase is on the last year of his rookie, right?
Mm-hmm. They got to pay him too.
Their thing is they got to pay him too. And I mean, so that's where you're at with that. And I mean, I do have a feeling if they franchise tag T, he's either going to say, forget that, I'm just not coming. Like Myles Garrett's already told us the Browns, don't try it.
Le'Veon Bell.
Right. Le'Veon Bell. Yeah. So that's going to be the most interesting watch because he's the most sought after free agent, most likely. And yeah.
The scouting combine is end of the month, February 22nd to March 2nd. That's always fun. I mean, we're already in draft season, so that's gonna be fun learning about all these prospects. And then the big one, free agency, starts March 10th, and that's basically when it's all going to come to a head. It's Steelers better have their quarterback lined up by then, or
early March.
Yeah, and we're also going to find out who. Usually right before that, it's right around that time is when we find out who gets cut, and there's always these surprise cuts. Russell Wilson we didn't know Russell Wilson was available this time last year. He just magically popped up on the market, and Steelers were able to grab him up. So who knows who's going to be available, this time. So that's going to be super interesting.
Yeah, you never know who's going to show up for that. So you're right. So, we'll see who shows up for free agency, who can be plucked out of there, who the Steelers think they can have a chance on. But that week also obviously dictates the draft. Is T. Higgins going to be traded? He can sign actually. Is Myles Garrett going to be traded? All of a sudden, some of these teams that might be sitting in the top 10 or maybe in 15 back could trade up, make a splash. It's not unheard of. So that's probably one of the most interesting weeks until you get to draft week, is that week of March 10th.
The Browns are so screwed. I just feel bad for those fans, but because they have a ton of dead money because of Deshaun Watson. Now, if they get rid of Myles Garrett, they're going to have a ton of dead money too. So it's like almost half their salary cap is going to be unusable. They have no choice but to tank. They have no choice but to just suck for a few years and accumulate a whole bunch of draft picks and hope that they could be reborn.
Yeah, like David said, they may be running for the Arch Manning sweepstakes, but I remember with them getting Tim Couch, and everyone thought Tim Couch is going to be the guy. He's going to be, and the infamous picture, that infamous guy who keeps adding their quarterback names to that Browns jersey. I think it starts with Tim Couch since they came back, and it just keeps going down. Like
40
and down
names by now. Yeah,
yeah, it's insane. So, that could be the thing. I mean, Kyler Murray could be an interesting guy that pops up. He's been a guy that's been rumored some places. Obviously, the Lions are going to be aggressive. They have some space, believe it or not. They have some space. And they probably need some spots filled to kind of get them to that next level. They're probably the one team that I think was probably Eagles, Lions going into. Well, it was probably definitely Lions, Eagles were in a mix. But then as the season went on, the Eagles kept looking so much better.
Imagine Myles Garrett on the Lions.
That's what I mean. Myles Garrett
with what's his name, Aaron Hutchinson or whatever his name is.
Yep.
Dominating defensive line.
Yep. Yeah, they swung big a couple years ago with Sue, and that didn't work out too well. But who knows? I mean, different thing. But Myles Garrett going there, I think the Lions are going to be kind of creative because I think the Lions realize where they're at. They're knocking on the door. They're right there. What do we need to do to get to the next step? Because they're pretty set in a lot of places.
They're pretty set, and really the only reason that they failed this year is because they had so many injuries. And you 21. So you figure that's probably not going to happen again. So yeah, this is the time. You have a very these championship windows are very small. So when you get it, go for it.
Right, which is what you've seen the Chiefs do, and the Eagles are probably going to continue to do too. And absolutely. But yeah, those are some of the big names out there, and it's going to be a really interesting year because there's a lot of teams I think that are like, how do we get to be where the Chiefs are? How do we get to be where the Eagles are? Like I said from the beginning, I think Jeff Lurie, what he's doing there's got to be a lot of teams saying we've got to copy the Eagles right now.
Exactly. You thought defensive line was in demand before. Now everybody's going to want to have their own Eagles defensive line. It's like, oh, I want to do that. And so defensive line free agents are going to go like crazy. And the draft picks are going to go like crazy. Dave has it's already begun with Deebo Samuel. These rumors. I cannot survive another Brandon Ayuk situation where we went for 5 freaking months, March through August, of Brandon Ayuk rumors. I felt like a hostage. I felt like I was in a hostage situation. I can't handle Deebo Samuel watch or something like that. I can't. I won't.
If you look down the list, and this is why I there's not a lot of great stuff. So if I'm looking at wide receiver, T. Higgins, I don't think is coming here. There's Chris Godwin, Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs. I don't think Diggs would come here, but it's if they throw enough money in, he might.
Amari Cooper, yes. Not.
Yeah, Deontay Johnson, no way in hell. So and that's where you kind of, and you get into like Darius Slayton, who could come here. I wouldn't mind. And then Keenan Allen, another guy I wouldn't mind. Yeah. The quarterback is interesting because here's a top 10. This is off of Livewire. Top 10: Sam Darnold, Justin Fields is 2, Russell Wilson's 3. So they have our
Oh.
two quarterbacks ahead of then it drops off. It definitely drops off after those two. Jameis Winston, who could throw 30 touchdowns and throw 40 interceptions. Marcus Mariota, garbage. Mason Rudolph, are you kidding me? Andy Dalton, how the hell is Andy Dalton still in the league as a free agent?
What is
Shouldn't he
he,
be in a
100 years
broadcast
old?
booth? There should be coaching college or something. Joe Flacco, no. Jarrett Stidham and Tyler Huntley, no. So legitimately, free agent quarterbacks are not out there. The best, honestly, the top four: Darnold, Fields, Wilson, and Winston. After that's a massive drop off, massive. So that's why I'm saying the Steelers got to get their shit figured out because those two could easily be gone in a heartbeat. All right. So running back, right? So there's another hole Steelers have. Aaron Jones is number one. I'd like to see Aaron Jones here.
I wouldn't mind that.
I wouldn't mind that at all. I don't think it'll happen, but I wouldn't mind him here. James Conner's number two. I would like to have had James Conner back when he left. Now James Conner is to the point where
he's a little old.
Yeah. Najee Harris is number three behind those two. So Najee's still behind James Conner. Then J.K. Dobbins, huge injury problems. Javonte Williams, okay with Denver.
I wouldn't mind him.
I wouldn't mind Javonte Williams. Nick Chubb's just had so many injuries. Yeah. But the Browns may let him very much go with the money problems like you said they're having.
Here's something to consider about Nick Chubb. Mike Tomlin adores him. Remember, anytime we'd play the Browns, he would talk about Mr. Garrett and Mr. Chubb.
Got a Chubb for Chubb.
You got a Chubb for Chubb. So yeah. So I would not surprise me in the least if we got Nick Chubb.
Now one guy I wouldn't mind, Rico Dowdle from the Cowboys, younger guy, he could be an interesting free agent pick. Yeah. But obviously Steelers got to get their stuff figured out because they got to get the draft figured out. And that's what I'm saying. If you don't figure out some of this stuff before the draft, then the draft is almost overwhelming because you have so much to do. Like I don't know how you bring that all in with, if you can say, hey, okay, we got Rico Dowdle, because a lot of people are putting the running back from Boise State as a Steeler, possible target. Yeah. Jannetty, right? Marty
Jannetty.
Yeah. But if you do bring in Nick Chubb, if you do bring in Aaron Jones, then that obviously alleviates and solves that, right? So it's going to be interesting to see. The Steelers hopefully need to be players early. It's just a matter of who they're going to bring in at what cost and stuff like that. So the Steelers need to be active. They have to be. They don't have they have draft picks, but I don't know.
They just can't do what they did last year. It's like, oh, we'll just get some wide receiver. Don't worry, something will come about. And then you're in September and you have nothing. Yeah, you have to line that up ahead of time. Now, one thing about Kevin Colbert, yeah, he sucked at some things toward the end, but he did this thing where he had, even before the draft, he had a contingency plan at every position that of need. So it's like, in case we don't get it in the draft, at least we have something. That's what you need. You need to go into the draft where you say, let's get the best player available, not who we desperately need and we're going to reach for.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I still think, like, where the Steelers are now, I think, is reflective of a lot of the play. I know T.J. Watt was somewhat hurt towards the second half of the year, but I also think T.J. Watt, in a way, kind of just, I don't want to say thrown in the towel, but in a way, threw in the towel. And because you saw the defense was getting chippy about guys giving up on plays. They obviously didn't like Cam Sutton. That was pretty clear. I never saw so many backhanded comments pointed at guy without saying his name. Clearly evident it was Cam Sutton. So yeah, who knows? And that's the thing. You already have this $100 million damn defense that's not great. So I don't know how much active they're going to be in the defensive, free agency. I think they'll be active in offensive free agency. And then,
the thing is, as much as they spend on defense, they still have needs. They still got to do something about that defensive line.
They do.
So whether it's free agency, draft, whatever, but we got a roller coaster ahead of us the next few months. That's
to David's point too. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Joe.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, to David's point. I mean, you don't want to start the quarterback, but start chipping away. Here's where you start chipping away, and bring some of these guys in. Do well in free agency, and like I said, I don't care if they go 7-10 next year. Yeah, we'll bemoan them here on the show, but we'll be here already. Yeah. Yeah, we'll already be looking forward to 2026 draft.
Because right now it is hopeless. Right now we're looking at the exact same situation. We're gonna go 9-8, 10-7. We're gonna barely make the playoffs. We're gonna get blown out that first game, and we're back to square one. It's the same thing over and over again. We need hope.
I don't think there was a team in the playoffs this year that they could have beaten. And that's the thing.
Not the end. No.
And I think if Cincinnati had gotten in over us, I think Cincinnati could have beaten a few teams. I think Cincinnati could have pulled an upset off. Maybe not 2 rounds, but I think they could have definitely beat one. And I still say that. I think there's a lot of truth to the Kansas City flop like that because they didn't want to play the Bengals. Yeah. Because you play the Bengals, and they could give up 38, but they could score 48. So it's like, I don't know, but that's. Yeah, you got to pick a little bit of time, get some free agents, help out the cause, keep drafting right. Maybe, Deebo Samuel, like hey, 29, 3-year contract.
I'd love it. And it wouldn't take much. It wouldn't like a 5th round draft pick or something like that. Let's go. Yeah.
Right.
Oh boy. It's just so funny. I remember we're both not young. I remember in the 80s and 90s when the Super Bowl was over, you didn't talk about the NFL until the draft.
No.
And then even then, that was just like, the morning of the draft on a Saturday morning, you just looked at the newspapers like, oh, who's these people available? Now, we just spent an hour and a half talking and about the off season. We got so much to talk about between now and April.
Right, was the old joke like you didn't know the NFL draft was close until Mel Kiper saw his shadow or something like that, and but now you're right. You got everything from Pat McAfee to Sirius Radio. There's 24/7. There's the NFL Network. There's all these things that just keep it fresh in our mind.
Combine is a major television event. The Combine, kids in their underwear running around is a major television event.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a big deal. Big deal for Indianapolis.
Yeah. I've have you ever been to Indianapolis? I've never been.
I have.
Yeah. I heard it's a nice
town. It's a nice town. And that Lucas Oil Stadium is incredible. It really is. It's almost like you can't believe it's a stadium. Because it's massive. And you look at it, it looks like a giant kind of a house type / office building / it's really incredible. But yeah, no, the Combine's a fun event, and a lot of stuff goes on at the Combine, right? Not only do you have to go out there and run and jump your height and all that stuff, but there's all the interviews going on at the same time. You're right. You meet with these teams, and it's like speed dating.
It is like speed dating, and that's when all the general managers are there at the same place, and you get a lot of trades.
Yeah, the GM meetings are held at the same time that week or the weekend prior. Yeah. It's either the weekend prior or the weekend after. I can't remember which, but they're held there too. So so that's a big week, and NFL Network's always right on that. So yeah.
Yep. So lots to talk about. We're just getting started. It's just so funny that the season never ends.
Well, it's like I said a couple weeks ago. My wife was like, "Well, now that the Steelers season's over, you and Joe probably won't jump on there until what draft?" I'm like, "Are you kidding? Last year we had some of our best ratings ever. Was like in the off season,
right." It was that first week of March when that whole Kenny Pickett, Russell Wilson, Justin Fields craziness happened, that blew our minds.
I think we did 2 shows one week once.
Probably.
I think you turned around like, we got to do a show tomorrow. Was it like, yeah?
We there was one show. It's like, hey, maybe we'll get Russell Wilson, and then the whole Kenny Pickett thing happened. And we're like, we got to talk right now.
Yeah, we got to talk right now.
That's happened in years.
Yeah. So, and we could be there, folks. I'm sure it's going to be entertaining. If anything, it will be entertaining.
Yes. Yep. Never a dull moment with the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's for darn sure.
No. Very good, Joe.
Thanks everybody for listening. Thanks everybody live for listening. Thanks for the people contributing. Dave, Kevin, thank you very much for the comments, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
See you.